The fight over abortion continues to heat up. In liberal states such as New York and hell, abortion is allowed up to the 240th month in cases where the mother is endangered or just really annoyed and tired of doing so much laundry. The procedure must be performed by a licensed physician or a hitman, whichever is cheapest. In more conservative states like Alabama, Ohio, Reality, and Utah, abortion is considered the immoral destruction of an innocent human life because it immorally destroys a human who is alive and innocent. Pro-abortion activists, who prefer to be called pro-choice rather than baby-killing savages, say they have been frustrated in their attempts to convince pro-life activists to change their minds. Pro-choicer Jack Ripper, in a statement scrawled in blood on an alley wall, told reporters, quote, "We've tried everything to get the pro-lifers to come over to our side. We've punched them, threatened to rape their children, torn down their signs, and screamed in their faces, but we somehow can't get them to see reason. It's obvious they're racist because many aborted children would have grown up to be black and experience prejudice. So it's much better to stick a needle in their hearts and then tear them limb from limb, as anyone can plainly see if they enjoy doing that sort of thing," unquote. Hollywood actresses have added their logical minds to the debate. The beautiful Emily Ratajkowski posed nude to punish the 25 old white men who voted for the Alabama bill and presumably reward the 7 old white men who voted for Roe v. Wade. And of course, Alyssa Milano is continuing her sex strike, which should have a major impact as soon as America's men realize they are no longer having sex with Alyssa Milano. Pro-life activists, meanwhile, continue to rattle on about their silly God who made us in his image and endowed us with rights and stuff. No clue what that's about. Trigger warning, I'm Andrew Klavan, and this is The Andrew Klavan Show.
I feel hunky-dunky, life is tickety-boo. Birds are winging, also singing hunky-dunky-doo. Ship-shaped, tipsy-topsy, the world is zippity-zing. It's a wonderful day, hurrah, hooray! It makes me want to sing. Oh, hurrah, hooray! Oh, hooray, hurrah!
Yes, we are going to talk about Game of Thrones. I will try to keep the spoilers for my review at the end of the podcast. But if you didn't see the penultimate episode last week, the one last week, you might want to skip this part too. One of my frustrations with conservatives over the years is their inability to fully engage with the process and importance of storytelling, which is a major part of how culture is created. At first, I thought this was entirely because conservative storytellers like myself get blacklisted from the major storytelling venues, and we do, but there's also, I think, something congenital about it. Conservatives tend to be more yang-minded. They engage with life in terms of facts and figures and feel that facts don't care about your feelings, as someone, I think, once said. Leftists tend to be more yin-minded and engage with life in terms of stories and the feelings they produce. If a news outlet can show them pictures of babies crying, they feel something must be done about whatever issue that is. If they're moved, they think that's where the truth is. Men tend to be more yangy and women more yinny. And as anyone who's married to a member of the opposite sex will tell you, it's hard to reconcile these two ways of experiencing the world. On the one hand, the yangs are right. It doesn't matter what your feelings are if the facts don't support them. But on the other hand, the yins are right. Everything that's most important in life is, if not a feeling exactly, it's at least a subjective reality. Love, faith, joy, and sorrow aren't real like tables and chairs are real, but they're just as real as tables and chairs are. And if your facts don't care about those, your facts don't matter very much in the end. As a yang guy in a yin profession, I've always been able to flash back and forth between the points of view, which makes it cheap for me to take myself out on a date. But it also means I appreciate stories more than a lot of conservatives seem to. So let me tell you this. I've been listening to conservatives kvetch about the ending of Game of Thrones all night long, and I think they are foolish. The show is one of the biggest wins for our point of view in American cultural history, an enormously popular story that tells about a powerless woman who is mistreated as only a woman can be, who rises to power with the intense desire to free people from the sort of oppression she experienced, who acquires power in pursuit of her cause, and ultimately loses touch with the contradiction of exercising power in pursuit of freedom. She becomes a tyrant who feels her commitment to liberalization justifies flagrant atrocity because she knows what the good is, and the rest of us, therefore, don't get to choose. In other words, she forgets Thomas Sowell's greatest law. The most basic question is not what is best, but who shall decide what is best? And of course, the only possible right answer to that question is the human individual in his home and his community. In other words, America has just been treated to an 8-season-long history of leftism in which a queen allows past grievances, female identity, and the intoxicating lie of power to override the good she thinks she set out to do. It ends with a reminder that the great human stories of the future will not be made in the capital by those who sit in thrones. They will be made by adventurous individuals who live free beyond the borders of the North or who sail west beyond the places where the maps end. Game of Thrones has its storytelling flaws, and I'll talk about them later, but if conservatives had as much cultural sense as God gave a goose, we would be singing the praises of a great show that told the greatest conservative truth of all. We will talk about that more throughout the show, but like I said, I'll try and save the spoilers for the end. Meanwhile, let us talk about the fact that your internet connection is giving your stuff away. When you leave your internet connection unencrypted, you might as well be writing your password and credit card numbers on a huge billboard for the rest of the world to see. That is why I took Michael Knowles' advice in this one instance, this one time, and I got ExpressVPN. It's so easy to put in there. It works behind the scenes. You don't have to worry about it, and it secures and anonymizes your internet browsing by encrypting your data and hiding your public IP address. ExpressVPN has easy-to-use apps. They run seamlessly in the background of your computer, phone, and tablet, and turning on ExpressVPN protection takes one click. Using ExpressVPN, you can safely surf on public Wi-Fi without being snooped on or having your personal data stolen. And it costs about $7 a month, which is not that bad. Protect your online activity today and find out how you can get 3 months free at expressvpn.com/Klavan. That's expressvpn.com/Klavan for 3 months free with a 1-year package. Visit expressvpn.com/Klavan to learn more. And you're thinking, why did you spell Express? I know how to spell Express, but how on earth does anyone spell Klavan? It's Klavan. Democrats are the Dragon Queen. They are the Dragon Queen. You know, last week we saw, not just in my Stanford address where they tried to start trouble, where the administration tried to start trouble and kind of shut me down and get people upset, but we had my friend on, Michael Loftus, the comedian, who told you how he couldn't get his stuff sold because he was a right-winger, his TV stuff sold, so they want to silence him. We saw Jenna Ellis, now Mrs. Reeves. Jenna Ellis Reeves was blocked on Facebook for supporting Matt Walsh in his anti-abortion fight. We see all these people being thrown off. We see people using power without thinking about the fact that power contradicts the very things they're trying to achieve. And I know they started out, or at least in their hearts, want to do good. I know they want to reverse racist policies of the past, but the left has become truly, truly wicked in their racist ideas. This is something enormous. This identity politics, which is racism with a smiley face, is simple evil. And I mean, I see it all the time. I see like segregated dorms on colleges. In my profession in storytelling, they now have a thing called own story, which is you can only tell your own story or the story of people like you. We saw this with Elton John's movie is coming out, and people started to complain about the fact that the actor who plays the gay Elton John is not himself gay. And Elton John, to his credit, came out and said that's garbage, that is BS, because it's just a movie and he can play anybody he wants. But if you think about it, the thought there is that there's something about it between a black person and a white person, between a gay person and a straight person, some barrier that keeps an artist whose job is to portray all of humanity, that keeps them apart. So they've come back to the kind of racism, the left has come back to the kind of racism they practiced under Jim Crow. They keep saying, well, that was different because now Nixon's Southern strategy changed everything. The same attitude. It is the same thing. So it's evil stuff they're pushing on people. They start out trying to do good. They wind up doing evil because they feel that they have got what's right, and they're going to eliminate all choice, eliminate all voices on the other side. And that is the journey of the Dragon Queen in Game of Thrones. What we should have been doing instead of going on and saying, I didn't want this person to take the throne, and I didn't do this, and why didn't they say this on Twitter, which is what conservative Twitter looked like. We should have been saying, oh, look, the Democrats are the Dragon Queen. They have started out trying to do good, and now they're so convinced that only their way is good that they are going to enforce that on everybody else. And what the Queen says is they don't get to decide. Those people that she's liberating, she's going to liberate them, and they don't get to decide what's good because she knows what's good. She's a leftist. She becomes a leftist. All right. So let's take a look at some of the stuff that they're talking about. Pete Buttigieg had a town hall on Fox News with Chris Wallace. And let's start with abortion, because abortion is still the big story going on, and this is something that's everybody's talking about. Wallace asked Pete Buttigieg about abortion, and he would not say that babies should not be killed in the third trimester.
Do you believe at any point in pregnancy, whether it's at 6 weeks or 8 weeks or 24 weeks or whenever, that there should be any limit on a woman's right to have an abortion?
I think the dialogue has got so caught up on where you draw the line that we've gotten away from the fundamental question of who gets to draw the line. And I trust women to draw the line when it's their own.
Just to be clear, you're saying that you would be okay with a woman well into the third trimester deciding to abort her pregnancy?
Look, these hypotheticals are usually set up in order to provoke a strong emotional...
In fairness, sir,
all right, so
it's not hypothetical. There's 6,000 women a year who get abortions in the third
That's
trimester.
right, representing less than 1% of cases.
I know,
but
let's take
let's take ourselves in, and the bottom line is, as horrible as that choice is, that woman, that family may seek spiritual guidance, they may seek medical guidance, but that decision's not going to be made any better, medically or morally, because the government is dictating how that decision should be made.
Now, it's really interesting that he gets this when it comes to this subject. He gets that people should make their own decisions. The problem here is there is another human being involved who has no vote. That is the problem with this. His basic principle is right. People should make their own medical decisions, but there's a human being unprotected. There's only one person in an abortion room who has no vote, has no voice. Only one. That's the baby. So that is the problem there, But remember what he said. I also have to say these town halls are garbage. These town halls are nonsense. Why should there be an audience there applauding or booing anybody? This is the Bill Maher system. Not just Bill Maher. It's all the talk show hosts, Stephen Colbert. When people applaud something, that doesn't make it one bit more true, okay? That is, when we talk about yin thinking, when we talk about storytelling, that is what that is. It does not make, you can say 2 + 2 is 5, and everybody can say, oh boy, what a great, great guy, and you're still wrong, okay? So why have them there? People can send in questions, Chris Wallace can ask the questions that people send in, but why have people cheering and booing for ideas? It just doesn't make any sense whatsoever. It is a misuse of democracy. But this is something going on through the whole Democrat Party. Amy Klobuchar also won't say about abortion. She won't come down and say that there comes a point when you shouldn't do it anymore. All right. So now let's go back, though, to Buttigieg now says that when Democrats talk about all the wonderful things they give you, they should also talk about how they're going to pay for it. And this is cut number 8, as he does, to his credit, he describes how he's going to pay for it.
When candidates, Democrats, go out promising, as I think we should, that we're going to have major increases in investment in things like education, health, and infrastructure, we also got to be willing to say where the revenue is going to come from. And it's why we really do need to entertain ideas like, I would say, a fairer, which means higher, marginal income tax rate on those earning the most, a reasonable wealth tax or something like that to make sure that people are giving back when they become enormously wealthy. Perhaps a financial transactions tax that taxes these millisecond differences in computer trades that people become enormously wealthy off. I'm not saying we ban them, but since it's not obvious how much real value they're adding to the economy, the least we could do is get some value for the American people. And also closing the corporate tax loopholes and incentives for offshoring that have it to where pretty much everybody in this room probably paid more, personally, in federal income taxes than some of the most wealthy multinational corporations like Amazon that made billions in profits and paid zero last year.
Well, first of all, it's not true there'd be zero because the people in the companies pay taxes, and so the corporate tax to begin with is a double tax. And second of all, what happened to if it's my decision whether I kill a child or not? If he can understand that the government shouldn't make that decision, which of course it should. The government should protect a child's life. Why isn't my decision how I spend my money? What is this giving back? What did these billionaires take that they should be giving anything back. They didn't take anything. They created stuff. They created wealth. They created whatever it is that they did that gave wealth. So why should I do not understand why, in his absolute knowledge that he, the Dragon Queen, knows what's good, why he gets to decide how that money is spent. I do not understand that. You know, I have to pause here for just a second. I'm going to get back to that in a moment because there's a really interesting story about that and a really interesting reaction to that story. But first, let us talk about OpenFit, because I know it's distracting when I'm sitting here talking like this and I just look so great that you want to listen to what I'm saying, but you're thinking, how does he do it? How does he look so great? I exercise constantly, and OpenFit takes all the complexity out of losing weight and getting fit. You don't want to commute to the gym, especially not in LA, but anywhere you don't want to. It's just too far away. You want to be able to get fit where you are. And OpenFit is a brand new, super simple streaming service that allows you to work out from the comfort of your living room in as little as 10 minutes a day. The 10-minute exercise is really tough, but a really good workout. Forget the complexity, the stress around getting fit, and just play and work out on your schedule. View it on your computer, on web-enabled TV, tablet, smartphone, Roku. Lose up to 15 pounds in just the first 30 days. OpenFit has changed the way you work out, and I really like it. With my code Klavan, you can join me on a fitness journey personalized just for you. Again, use my code Klavan and start using OpenFit for your journey to a healthier life right now. During the OpenFit 30-day challenge, my listeners get a special extended 30-day free trial membership to OpenFit where you can lose up to 15 pounds in 30 days when you text Klavan. Not just by texting Klavan, you have to also do the workouts, but you text Klavan to 303030, 303030. You will get full access to OpenFit, all the workouts and nutrition information totally free. Again, just text Klavan to 303030. You will like it, and you think, sure, I look great, but how do you spell it? It's Klavan. No E's in Klavan, but I sure make it look easy. So a graduation from Morehouse College, talking about who gets to decide. Why are Democrats so committed that babies should be killed on your decision, but not that your money should be spent by your decision? That's the only decision they're willing to let people make, is what drugs to take, what recreational drugs to take, when to have sex, and when to kill their babies. Why? Because those are three things that will enslave you, and then they get to make all the other decisions because they are the Dragon Queen. Morehouse College, a traditionally black college, and they say that because it's a black college. It's a black college, and I think he's the richest black man in America. Robert Smith said that he was going to donate $40 million and alleviate all the debt of the kids who are graduating from school. So big deal. He's a private equity firm, right? One of these kids, which are really interesting to me, he couldn't believe it, so he went up to the guy after the speech. Oh, when he got his degree, you go up and shake hands with the speaker, and he said, "Did you really just say you're going to pay off my debt?" And the kid and Smith said to him, "Go out into the world and do things. Don't worry about your debts," okay? Which is really interesting because I'm not a billionaire, but that is what I tell people too. I said, don't worry about solving the past. Don't worry about reparations. What are you going to do? What are you going to do for people and for your society? What are you going to contribute? That is the thing that you should be asking yourself, because that's where you get a happy life. That's where you get a life of worth. So the left reacted to this, a man giving of his personal wealth to pay off the debts of students. They reacted to this as typical. Here's Alexandria Occasional Cortex.
Hello, America. AOC here again, but this time from Washington, D.C., which is named after our country's first president, George Washington, D.C. Did you know that? I want to tell you about my plan to single-handedly save the planet. I call it the Green New Deal. I picked green because I'm still learning my colors. I came up with my plan after watching the most important documentary on climate change. It's called Ice Age 2, The Meltdown. That's not me saying it, that's science. My Green New Deal will cost $93 trillion. Do you know how much that is? Me neither, because it's totally worth it. If sea levels keep rising, we won't be able to drive to Hawaii anymore. And I just got this electric car. It's eco-friendly, and everyone has to drive one under my deal.
Under my deal, because she's the boss, right? She's the boss. I'm sorry, I couldn't help myself playing that. But you know, AOC said of this billionaire giving this money, she said, you know, people shouldn't have to depend on charity to alleviate their debts. But of course, that's exactly what they should have to depend on, is charity to alleviate their debts, because the only other option is theft, right? The only other option is AOC gets to decide that my money pays off that kid's debt instead of this billionaire who made his money, earned his money, doesn't have to owe anybody anything, and he is alleviating their debts because he's a good guy. That means that they have to be grateful to him. That means that they have to be responsible to what he did so that they do something with their lives. That means that he is ennobled by giving $40 million away instead of AOC just getting power and saying, you know, gathering the Dothrakis around her and saying, you know, now I am the boss. I have the power because I know it's good and you don't get to choose. That entire attitude is embedded in the Democrat Party. And, you know, just to go back for a minute to the idea of yin and yang, about storytelling versus facts. You know, these guys are radicals. Pete Buttigieg is a radical. He is talking about radical abortion. He's talking about radical increases in taxes. He's talking about eliminating Jefferson, stop honoring Jefferson. Let's play that cut. I love that. They kind of overplayed this. They said he wanted to eliminate Jefferson from history. But he said, he was talking about Andrew Jackson. He said Andrew Jackson should be utterly abandoned because of the genocide. I guess he was talking about the fact that Jackson won the Indian Wars, making expansion possible. But then he goes on about Jefferson.
You said the other day, you seemed to indicate that you had some troubles with the racial history of Thomas Jefferson, and you suggested that some of the things honoring him, for instance, the traditional Jefferson-Jackson Democratic dinners, that they should be renamed. How far would you carry this? Would you rename streets? Would you rename Jefferson High School?
You know, my campaign office is actually on Jefferson Boulevard. Look.
So are you going to change the name?
I'm not planning that. No. But I think there's a reason why Democratic parties, when we're thinking about for the future our events, especially think about how burning of an issue something like racial equity is, we're thinking twice about naming our events after Jefferson and Jackson.
So he goes on to say that he doesn't like Jefferson because Jefferson knew slavery was wrong, but he didn't do anything about it, which is like saying that Isaac Newton knew how science worked, but he didn't invent the electric light bulb. You know, when you're born into a system, it takes a long time to overcome the fact that there you are and your economy depends on it and your life is always, and you're used to it and all this stuff. Even a man as great as George Washington took a lifetime to really figure out slavery because he was immersed in it. And I think that George Washington is a considerably greater man in every possible way than Pete Buttigieg. But my point is that these guys, this is a radical rejection of America. It's a radical transformation of America. That's what they're talking about. And but because Pete Buttigieg is personable, and because he's intelligent, and he is, and because he presents as a decent individual, they're going to sell him to you as mainstream. Here's Joe Scarborough, who has become kind of the mascot of the mainstream media. You can always depend on just a mainstream media point of view coming out of his mouth. Here he is talking about this town hall.
I've seen the future of the Democratic Party, and it's Mayor Pete. It may not be in 2020.
Right.
Perhaps it's in 2024 or beyond, but this guy is going to play an important role in the mainstreaming of the Democratic Party for many years to come. And believe you me, that is exactly what he does. Regardless of ideology, Mayor Pete mainstreams a Democratic Party.
So think about that. Regardless of ideology, he mainstreams the party. What could he possibly mean by that? It is the ideology of the left, the Dragon Queen ideology of the left, that is the problem. That's the problem. I don't care about anything else. I don't care what they look like. I don't care, you know, what they talk like. None of that bothers me. It's the ideology. So what could it possibly mean that Pete Buttigieg mainstreams the party, right? I mean, maybe there's some virtue signaling in there where he's telling you how woke he is about gay people. You know, I don't know. Maybe that's part of it. But basically it means he looks good. He presents well, you know. I agree. He looks good. He presents well. He is a radical left-wing ideologue. And so the ideology is the problem. And see how they're selling you that story because it works for them, because they're yin people, and they don't understand why the yang people are saying, whoa, 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 whoa. The fact is he's a left-wing ideologue that doesn't mainstream anything. I mean, you have to give it to Bernie. I mean, Bernie and Pete Buttigieg are not that far apart on what they believe in, but Bernie looks like an old commie, which is what he is, and he's talking about what they're all talking about, really. I mean, let's just play this one Bernie clip before I move on to this, my final point about this. Cut 2.
It goes without saying that we have got to defeat Donald Trump, who in my view is the most dangerous president in the modern history of this country. He's a pathological liar. He's a sexist and a racist, et cetera, et cetera. Beating Trump is not good enough. You got to beat the fossil fuel industry. You have to take on all of those forces of the status quo who do not want to move this country to energy efficiency and sustainable energies. We're going to try to transform the United States of America, deal with this massive level of income and wealth inequality, deal with Wall Street, deal with the greed of the drug companies and the insurance companies and the fossil fuel industry. So our campaign has a different goal. It's to transform this country, and we're taking on the entire establishment when we do that, including Ed Rendell.
So at least Bernie is being honest, all right? But the whole thing is the guy who runs against that, who presents as mainstream, is going to be the guy. And that's why Biden, who is now far away in the polls from everybody else, that's why he's presenting himself as mainstream and talking about unity. Listen.
I know some of the really smart folks say Democrats don't want to hear about unity. They say Democrats are so angry that the angrier a candidate can be, the better chance he or she has to win the Democratic nomination. Well, I don't believe it. I really don't. I believe Democrats want to unify this nation. That's what our party's always been about. That's what it's always been about, unity. If the American people want a president to add to our division, lead with a clenched fist, a closed hand, a hard heart, to demonize your opponent, to spew hatred, they don't need me. They've got President Donald Trump. Folks, I'm running to know for our country, Democrats, Republicans, and Independents, a different path. Not back to a path that never was, but to a future that fulfills our true potential as a country.
So obviously America wasn't great and all this stuff, and he doesn't want to divide people. That's what Donald Trump does. I'm not sure how that doesn't divide people. But all right, obviously unity is impossible when we disagree. We don't want to be unified. Unity is slavery. But what he's talking about when he says unity, what exactly does he mean by that? How does he want us unified, right? Well, I think the one who was really honest about this was this Congresswoman Pramila Jayapal, who's talking about what it takes to be a Democrat.
I think the party's response is going to be strong, and hopefully you've seen that it's strong across the board. Personally, I do think that there should be a set of core democratic ideals that we all agree to, and that you can't say you're a Democrat if you're against immigrants, if you're against abortion, if you're against gay marriage and LGBTQ rights. I'm not sure what it means to be a Democrat if all of those things are true.
Those are pretty interesting. I mean, obviously, nobody in America, there's not anybody in America who's against immigration. We're against illegal immigration, and we're against unfettered immigration. Everybody is against that, I think. Gay rights, that became a core democratic ideal in a big hurry. I'm in favor of those, but I don't see how that's a core democratic right. The point is they're going to purify the party, and then they're going to purify the country because they know what's right, and you don't get to choose. You don't get to choose. Game of Thrones, it is all Game of Thrones, and the way they play it is just like the Dragon Queen in that show. No question about it. Michael Knowles, who you may have heard of, I don't know who he is, but they told me he was kind of interesting. But we're going to talk about Australia together. I got to say goodbye to Facebook and YouTube. Come to dailywire.com and subscribe. You get to be in the mailbag. You get to see all our shows right here. You don't have to be hurled off into the exterior darkness where there is great weeping and gnashing of teeth, as you will now experience as I say goodbye.